All right, guys, got to go fast here because I only get 15 minutes. All right, so remember, we're talking about the start of the revolution. We're not even getting into battles yet. We're just going to talk about some little skirmishes and whatnot. So, cultural differences. Remember, these cultural differences, they create a fundamental disagreement at like a basic layer that if these two cultures are so different deep down, this is going to cause problems. Freedom of religion versus no freedom of religion. The idea of whether you are pro-slavery or not pro-slavery, the concept there, it split the United States in half. Of course, we're going to have problems with that here in Mexico with US citizens. So let's get into this a little bit further, understanding that these two cultures are very different. Now we get into Texas under Mexican rule. There's the Constitution of 1824. It provides for limited power to the central government and broad power to the states. Pretty much everybody loves this concept that the states have lots of power. Here's the thing. We're going to see this concept come up again in the United States when we study the Civil War, and it's called a states' rights constitution, or the idea of states' rights. So you'll see that again, so you can kind of underline that. Now, most Mexicans and U.S. settlers love this Constitution of 1824. There's just one hitch, and that is Coahuila y Tejas. Coahuila is in control of Texas. Texas is not an independent state of Mexico. This is a source of frustration. You'll see it up here in the corner, the word frustration. Okay, right there, moving it around for you. So you'll see that. When you see that word frustration, what this is this is a clue for you to understand that this idea that we're talking about is frustrating the Texans. So Texans don't have independence. They can't tell the government, hey, we want to do whatever we want to do about whatever we want to do. And that does frustrate them because they're under control of other people and they don't want to be. So let's take a look at what the major disagreement is over. Yep, it's slavery. So the biggest separation here of slavery, uh, being outlawed by Coahuila, and Texas has to go along with that because it's part of Coahuila. Then the nation of Mexico in 1829 outlawing it completely. The whole point here is that these two laws passed to get rid of slavery, Texas ignores them. And if they don't just ignore them, they do actively sketchy things to do workarounds. So, for example, when they're told they can't have slaves and their slaves must be free, paid people, what they do is they go ahead and they write 99-year contracts of indentured servitude to, basically, oh, you're going to serve me for 99 years until you work off your room and board. Well, if you work for me and you have to live on my place, are you ever going to get done paying off your room and board? No, you're not. You're always going to be a slave. So these colonists, they weren't really looking to solve this problem or to obey this law. So this is a source of mistrust for the Mexican government. Now, let's jump in here and talk about the Fredonian Rebellion, which is another source of mistrust for the Mexican government. There's an empresario. Now, remember, empresarios are these guys who are leading people down to Texas to settle land that they've been given to settle. This empresario, Hayden Edwards, he is really cruel to the people who already live there and have lived there way longer. And not just native people, but also the Mexican citizens that live there and may have gotten their land grants all the way back from Spain. So the idea that he gets to come in there and just kick these people off their land or arrest them and have no trials and all sorts of horrible things going on, this will eventually lead to some fighting with the Mexican officials in the area, and it's called the Fredonian Rebellion, where basically the guy tries to set up his own country called Fredonia. And this will not go well because Stephen F. Austin and a bunch of other Texans go up there and basically kick his butt and tell him no. So after this, part of this mistrust is that the Mexicans send this dude, General Terán, and he's going to go do some inspections on the colony of Texas. And basically what he finds is way too much America. Too much American businesses, too much American products, too much American language, too much American religion, way too much America. It's starting to look more like America than like Mexico. And his point is that if we don't do something, Mexico's going to lose Texas completely. So what does Mexico do to establish its control? Law of April 6, 1830. So they jump in and they put this law in. Now, let's take a look at this law and see how this becomes a source of frustration for the Texans. So here we have, it's a source of frustration. Now, why? Well, the law says that as of April 6, 1830, immigration from the United States is banned, blocked, ended. That's tough if you've only got, I don't know, yourself here and you haven't moved your family in. Might cause some frustration if you've bought land and you can't move your family here. What about blocking Texans from bringing in more slaves? Because we know that's a big deal for them. They really like that, unfortunately. But the idea there is these people were coming to Texas because they thought that they could come be plantation owners and get really, really rich by forcing other people to do their work. So the idea of that is now that that's not going to happen, that concept of their life, the way their life is going to work out is threatened. They're not taking it well. So we have then enforcement of taxation. Anytime you get the government taking your money, people don't like that. And so this enforcement of taxation is not met with open arms. Now, while this is all going on, there is unrest in Mexico. President Vicente Guerrero is overthrown and killed by a dude named Bustamante. So this happens in 1830. So literally as there's tensions rising in Texas, there's tensions rising all over Mexico. Mexico is somewhat in revolution in other states of its, union. Now, there will be a conflict at Anahuac. Anahuac is a fort. It's a new fort that's built in a really important trade route on the mouth of the Trinity River, kind of on out Galveston Bay. The idea is that pretty much anybody coming into the area goes in that way, or it's the most of the people go that way, because walking through Texas, that'd be a long walk. And it's faster to go by boat from Louisiana. So they do that, but it's getting difficult because now you have to go through Anahuac. When you get there, they've got all these new soldiers who are enforcing the law of April 6th, 1830, and the Texans don't like it. People are getting arrested. They're being held without trials. This is all being done by the military. If you go back to that idea that the military shouldn't be in charge of the people, it's the other way around, then you understand why the Texans are getting frustrated. But you also have to understand why this conflict, this little baby rebellion that's about to happen, is going to breed mistrust with the Mexican government. Because all of a sudden you get to decide you don't want to follow the law. Please. All right. So now there's still more unrest in Mexico. After Bustamante comes to power, he's only in power 2 years. Then he's overthrown by Santa Anna. And so the idea of this unstable thing is that, Mexico, it has a habit of looking to a strong leader. They actually have a name for it called the Caldísimo, basically this most powerful guy that's given all this power just to make things calm down. And Santa Anna will be called on to fill this role like 3 times in his political career, even after he loses to the fight at the in Texas. So the idea of this is that Mexico is in a time of upheaval and they're looking for someone to solve it. So they appeal to Santa Anna for the first time. He's elected president in 1833. Now, flashback to 1832. There is a problem there with Anahuac. The rest of Texas does not want to seem like they're in open rebellion. They're not ready to break with Mexico. They know that that's a bad idea and it's dangerous, and they don't want to do that. So they want to spin what happened at Anahuac to make sure they come out looking good. So they say, well, it's not a rebellion. We're not trying to overthrow the government, but we were defending our rights under the Constitution of 1824. And furthermore, Texas supports Santa Anna. And the reason they're saying they support Santa Anna is because at the beginning of Santa Anna's revolution, he's talking about how much he loves the Constitution of 1824. And that's why his popularity goes way up, because Bustamante has been violating the Constitution of 1824 and people want it back. So Santa Anna rises to power. He won't stick to his pledge, and that double cross really makes the Texans angry, but we'll get there. All right, so there are some conventions that the Texans are going to have. Basically, what they're going to get to is sitting down and coming up with some ideas, and what they're hoping for is that they're going to be able to list a bunch of demands that will then be sent to Santa Anna. And the Convention of 1832 doesn't go real well because they try to check in with the San Antonio government, and the San Antonio government just shuts them down. And remember, San Antonio back at this time period was the head government of Texas as part of Coahuila. So the idea is that the people in the people in San Antonio shut down the Texans and are like, nope, we're not even going to hear your arguments. So the Texans go back and they're like, hey, we want to have our own state. We still want all these goals that we're hoping to meet, including getting rid of a bunch of the stuff that's in the law of April 6, 1830. And so they have another meeting and they decide to send their demands straight to the man himself, Santa Anna, who is newly elected. So they're hoping to appeal straight to that guy, so they do just that. Now, as you can tell by the title of this slide, it does not go well. Austin goes down to present the demands from the convention to Santa Anna. He arrives in April, and it doesn't go well because he waits around until November. In October, he gets a little bit sassy, feeling a little bit salty there, and he writes off a letter to the Texans basically saying, hey, go ahead and organize a state government and get started on becoming a state. And he does this without permission. To do so is a violation of going against the government, basically like treason, but not so serious. So this letter, as Austin sent it, was intercepted. And because it's intercepted, right after Santa Anna gives Austin pretty much everything they want except becoming your own state, and the letter's intercepted and then brought back to Santa Anna after Austin is given everything he wants and he's sent back to Texas with the good news, and he gets there, or he doesn't even get to Texas, he gets to leave and then he's arrested. He's brought back to Mexico. He doesn't have a trial. They just throw him in jail for like a year. And when he gets back to Texas, Austin was kind of the last man standing when it comes to keeping peace. He would have fought and cajoled and begged and pleaded to keep people from fighting. But now Austin calls for war. In fact, he says it's the only way Texas can defend themselves.